Good evening. I have two topics. The first one is the electrical energy. All of those little red marks that you see in the Cuban map, I was going to put the provinces also, but we have so many that I get confused from the 6, so I don't do that anymore. There were 18 plants up to 1989, 18 power plants. Right now, there are only 7. You can see the 7 there. I tried to summarize a little bit. The most important thing is the third column that it says where the technology came from and the year that it was built. And the fourth column says when they were modernized. Modernized why? Well, because they use a lot of the Cuban oil. And the plants got broken down. Second, they are trying to convert now from fuel oil to gas, to natural gas, and that costs money. And that's what they're doing in there. Okay. So those are the 7 plants. Some of them have names crazy, like Lidio Ramon Perez. I don't know who it is. He's probably a guy that died somewhere. Well,
he's in Miami, bro.
Yeah. Now, during the crisis that this provoked, and I'm going to show some graph where you see the blackout days and so on. In my opinion, some people in there talked to the guy that is almost dying for 10 years now, and convinced him that they should bring some small plants that you can only use in emergency, in hospitals, in hotels, but there was a lot of money involved in there. And they brought what they call the Grupo Electrógeno. The Grupo Electrógeno is a crazy idea. Nobody does that but Cuba. And they are portable plants, very no efficient. The consumption that you see on the third column is amazing. Once they realized, and they brought like 3,500 of this. And yes, it solved a problem for a while, but they were dirty and inefficient and spent a lot. So they decided, let's bring a little bit higher power, and they brought the fuel oil, which is about 20 megawatts, but also it's useless. That's not the solution. And what they did with this one, they moved it to the sites of the 7 plants to help them. But that's not the solution for Cuba. Then they have natural gas. Yes, they do. They have it with Canada, the Chariot, and they have it in the area of the north coast of Cuba and Varadero. And they have 2 main plants. They are constructing another one. They use combined cycle, which is right. Natural gas is the future to be used in generating plants. The problem is, do they have it? It costs a lot of money, as we're going to see. But that's much better than the Grupo that they put before. Now, the number of blackout days. Look at that graph. That's amazing. The number of days that you don't have electricity, that you don't have the refrigerator working, that you don't have the TV on, that you don't have the air conditioning, if you have any. You don't see that in any civilized country. And now on 2010, which is missing there, went up to 150. So the curve is going up. The part in the 1993 to 1995 is one everybody. We thought that was going down. Even Jorge did. Jorge and I thought at that time Cuba was going down. The Soviet Union went down. It's going to go down. Unfortunately, it didn't go. Right now, we are, I think, in a much better situation to hope that it's going down. And that's what we're doing this job. Energy not served is the reverse of the other one. This is energy that could have been going to the public, but it didn't go because of failures, broken down, losses in the system. It's unbelievable. Look at those numbers. Those are in gigawatts hour. That's almost like the deficit that we have here now. It's something that you cannot even imagine. What is it? 1,600 gigawatt hour. That's unbelievable. Okay, you cannot even think about it. Then the available percentage power. is how much power, as an average, you have every year to provide to the homes and to the industry and so on. It should be in any country around 85 to 95%. In Cuba, you can see the numbers there, which average around 60, 65. That's not permissible. I mean, you cannot do that. The total loss, what is the total loss? The total loss, we're talking now, the electricity that is generated, let's say here, Turkey Point, and the one that you get to your home. That should be about less than 5%, the losses. You shouldn't lose more than that in a transmission line. But because in Cuba there is no work on the transmission lines since 1970, in the 1970s. They have done anything, and the Soviet, which did that, had such a poor technology that the losses are tremendously. And instead of being 5% or less, which is what is permissible in the United States, the losses are from the generating plant to your homes about 20%. And that means a lot. That's a lot of fuel lost, a lot of... Now, the present installed capacity, I have the three groups in there, which go up to the total that you are interested in is 4,900 megawatts are installed now in Cuba. But that doesn't mean anything. That's theoretically. The real capacity, because of the plants operating, like I showed you in the previous graph, at 65% is 3,200 a megawatt. 3,200. That doesn't mean anything if I don't tell you the next figure that isn't there. What is the demand? Because if the demand were 100, 200, 300, okay, that's beautiful. The demand, what the Cuban people need for whatever they do at their homes, which is 41%, at industry or whatever, is around 3,000 megawatts. You cannot have a demand of 3,000 megawatts and have a capacity of 3,200. That's why the blackouts, that's why the problems. And you don't solve that with the Grupo Electrono. You solve that with new plants, which is what I'm putting there now. The conclusion is that the entire energy infrastructure, from refineries, including the Cienfuegos one that Chavez has helped, and whatever, and what they are doing is selling that oil to the islands in the Caribbean. The entire system is on an advanced state of decay and will require a lot of investment. From where? From where? From here, from the United States, from where everybody gets the capital that is needed. One Cuba is into a democracy. There are two cost estimates, the higher and the lower, not too far away. It depends on the type of plants that you are going to build. Are you going to convert the new ones into gas? Are you going to build new ones? Well, we're talking about $2,527 million possible to improve the power system in Cuba. So that's the part in Cuba. Okay, that's the telecommunications. The two most important infrastructure are mine. Power, because without the power you cannot move anything. And the telecommunications, you cannot talk to anyone. You couldn't even beat me when I'm getting to the 5 minutes. So.
I will give you 3 minutes.
Now, the first graph, I just put it there for curiosity. That's not so important really, but it is. I mean, that gives you the Cuban telephone lines per 100 persons. By telephone lines, I don't mean 3 telephones in your house with the same number. No. I mean 3 different numbers per homes, or 2 or 1. And in 1959, nobody had more than 1 line in your house. You had a 222, 5, whatever, and that's it. And then you have maybe an extension in the other living room or something. In 1959, Cuba had 15 per 1,000 persons. And what that means, because a number means nothing if you don't compare. That's above Italy, which used to own this company now, was below that, was 8. Spain was about 10. Many other countries, most of the countries were below that. And that doesn't include cellulars. That's only wired telephone. At that time, you didn't have cellulars or anything. Now, you go to 2003 and so on, up to 2009, that includes wireless. And that includes some hybrid that they have created that I always forget the name, which is a hybrid between cellular and wire, and it's only given to some pinchos, how they call it, when they go to the country so that they don't get without a phone and so on. So you can see how the decay, why they leave things like this go down. That's unnecessary. And this report includes wire telephones, includes cell phones, includes internet and computers. That's all we have in there. Now, the number of cellular phones in 2010, I only pick a few countries. Cuba, 120,000. The government claims 165,000 right now. Let's believe them. And change that graph just a little bit. You can almost see it there. Haiti, 0.6. 80.6. Dominican Republic, 8. Guatemala, 11. Peru, 18. Number of computers, that's also amazing. In 1,000, that figure is in 1,000. In 2010, it went up to 650. That's nothing. That's nothing. And they keep talking about computers in Cuba, internet in Cuba. For who? The internet users per 1,000 persons. Again, in 2010, it went up to 155. That's not too important, the number of telephone lines. I don't have too much money, too much time. So let me change to something that everybody wants to know. The fiber optic cable. There are 2 fiber optic cables that are going to go from the United States to Cuba and the other from Venezuela to Cuba. This one is the one from the United States to Cuba that is going to start operating construction in November once the hurricane season is over. And the other is the one from Venezuela to Cuba that was already there, but it has to be installed. But what are they doing this? They are not doing this so that the Cuban people can use the phone. They are doing this for one only reason: security, so that they can talk to whoever they want without being watched or heard by the United States. Because if not, you have to go to the satellite, and the satellite can be picked up, or cellular phones. When you use fiber optics, it's much more difficult. It can be done, but it's much more difficult. So that's what they're looking for. That's baloney that they want to do it to allow the Cuban people to talk and be cheaper and so on. So that's the idea. And finally, the idea of the cost, the value of the equipment, the number, we estimate that after 5 years of transition, 15, we go back to the one that we have, and so on. But I put over here, subscriber after 3 years transition of cell phones, and I put 5 million. You know that if Cuba has 11 million people, in 5 years, they are going to have 20 million cells. Because look at Miami, and everybody is going to have with 2 over there because the anxiety that they have. So that's 5 million is nothing. But we had to say something like that. So that's the capital that is going to be needed, and that's it.
Did you know?